What's up, good people? Good afternoon. What it do? It is your boy, SportsRap CEO, in the building. And you know what it is. You know what we do. It is Monday, and it is time. It's go time. So I know what's going on. Listen, we got a little bit more Sixers free agency to talk about because, good afternoon, Cuzzo. Thanks for tuning in. Let me see. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. Not a lot of stuff, but some things that I felt like I wanted to bring to the table today. You know, we in that kind of slow down period in sports, if you will, where we are in between basketball, who just had the finals in the NBA, still in baseball season, but they're in their break now, waiting for hockey season to restart again, and we're waiting for basketball season and football season to start up as well. So, you know what I do what I do, and then I'm gonna get into some stuff. And like I said, some of the stories I got for y'all are pretty interesting stories. And I just want to see, hopefully y'all will tune in and reach out when I give y'all some of this stuff and give y'all some of my thoughts, on the things that I saw, things that I bring to the table. And, you know, we can have some dialogue today, all right? So, looking for some of y'all. I know my regulars will be here soon, so whenever y'all get in, just make sure y'all stay tuned, pay attention to what's going on today. So, yesterday's scores, Major League Baseball. Yankees fall to the Orioles 6-5. The Red Sox get by the Royals 5-4. The Phillies fall at home in a whopping defeat, 18-3. The A's take that game. I think the Phillies were just resting guys. Half of the 8 guys were on their way to All-Star break. So that's like almost the whole starting lineup. Basically a starting lineup now without the pitcher. But we had pitchers, but you understand what I mean as far as the numbers and the players. All right. The Rockies get by the Mets 8-5. The Dodgers fall to the Tigers 4-3. The Marlins get by the Reds 3-2. The Guardians get blanked by the Rays 2-0. The Rangers get by the Astros 4-2. The Pirates get by the White Sox 9-4. The Nationals fall to the Brewers 9-3. The Cubs get by the Cardinals 8-3. The Twins and the Giants in a close one. The Giants take that 3-2. Another close one with the same score. The Angels get by the Mariners 3-2. Another close one, the Blue Jays and the Diamondbacks in Arizona. The Diamondbacks fall there 8-7. And in our late game, the Braves and the Padres fall at home to the Braves 6-3. In the WNBA yesterday, the Mercury fall to the Sun 96-69. The Fever get another win. They take that over the Lynx 81-74. The Aces get by the Mystics 89-77 in a record day for Asia Wilson. And the Dream fall to the Storm 81-70. Just real quick, a little bit of news. Jerron Ennis, shout outs to him, who won his fight Saturday in his hometown in Philly, retaining his belt. Have to tell you about 2 passings. Monty Kiffin, the architect of the Tampa 2 defense, dies over the weekend at the age of 84. And also, Ravens Super Bowl hero Jacoby Jones, per reports, dies at the young age of 40. Also, for the first time in its 11-year history, a black man has won a stage in the Tour de France. Shout outs to Beniam Girmay. All right, shout outs to him, first black man to win a stage in the Tour de France in the 11-year history of the event. So that is your news, your scores, your updates, and all that other jazz and things of that nature. So we all know, like I said, we are in this kind of slow period, somewhat of a down period. And again, like I said, we are definitely more than likely going to talk some more Sixers free agency. Before I get to that, I do want to bring something to your attention. So as I'm going through my notes and I'm getting stuff prepared, my guy, Mighty Robinson, thank you for tuning in. As always, I'm going through my notes and I see the one of the things that I wanted to bring to the table because I thought it was somewhat interesting myself. Jay Blake 5, thanks for tuning in, good brother, as always. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the NBA. They have agreed on the new record 76 billion dollar media rights deal. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But before I get to that, as I mentioned to you as I started this show today, I mentioned to you that we are in our down period, if you will. And that down period is somewhat due to us being, in between sports, so to speak. Some of our favorite sports are not active right now, but we going to get through it. So we all know there's a time when like seasons overlap and all of that. So we know football season will be starting soon. It's going to overlap a little bit with the NBA season once again. And the plan for the NBA now, or upcoming, is to have games, wait for it, 7 days a week once the NFL season concludes. Now, this is not going to start this year. This is projected to start in the 25-26 season. So, again, 7 days a week. When football season is over, the NBA is planning to have a nationally televised game every day, 7 days a week. And I told you that's like one of the reasons basketball is somewhat my favorite sport. Like I played a lot, but like I said, when you get to football, you play football, they only get, because of the sport, and I understand the nature of the sport, and the competitiveness and the violence of each sport or whatever. Football, you only play once a week. All right. Basketball, you can play 2-3 times a week. All right. So it's more stuff for me to watch throughout the season. All right. So on Monday for the NBA, and this is, like I said, starting the 25-26 season, Monday, it's going to be on Peacock. Tuesday, NBC. Wednesday, ESPN. Thursday, Amazon. Friday and Saturday, ESPN and Amazon. And then Sundays will be NBC and Amazon. All right. So how do we feel about that? Let's see. Who do I have on here? I got Jay Blake tuned in. I got Mighty Robinson tuned in. Both of you guys, feel free to chime in whenever you feel like it or whenever you get your thoughts together. And I said, how do we feel about that as sports fans, as basketball fans, or whatever? Like, get to see a game every day. Does that have you thinking of thoughts of oversaturating the national television circuit of games? Could this also be in part of or in conjunction with what I just mentioned to you, like I'm going to get into in a little bit, the new the record 11-year, $76 billion media rights deal? Does it have anything to do with that? But again, how do we feel about that? Like, for me, thinking about it is great. I watch a basketball game every day. I'll be done with football, whatever, then I'll be, in the basketball. It'll be towards the end of baseball. So, let's see. Might be too much plus the load management. Well, Jay, I hear you. Jay Blake 5 says it might be too much plus the load man. I don't think they're going to increase the games or anything like that. So I don't think. Now, the load management thing might play into it, but it depends on how they space it out. I mean, they've got enough teams to space it out. And again, it's coming at that time after football season is over. So that's like at the beginning of the season. So, football season is over. Well, not so much over at the beginning of the football season, but it'd be like the beginning, the early stages of the basketball season. Let's see. Mighty says, that's good stuff because I'm either in the gym or just getting home from the gym. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, for me right now, thinking about it, I think it's pretty good. Also, because, you have those times when television rights and all this other stuff, when they have blackouts, you can't get to see certain games and all this other kinds of jazz. So, it becomes a thing for me. So like I said, I can see a basketball game every day. And for me, as a really, really strong basketball fan, That's kind of like right up my alley. And for me, it doesn't have to be the Sixers all the time, which I will watch pretty much all of their games. Every game that I can watch, I will watch. But my thing with watching sports, and especially basketball, is I'll watch good basketball. Again, like I said, I'll watch good basketball. As long as it's good basketball, I'll watch it. If it's like a major blowout or something like that, then I'm kind of tuning out. I'm trying to check it out, fading away from it, if you will. But if it's good basketball being played, then I'm all in. Like I said, it's one of those things where as a fan now I get to see a lot more basketball. Coach Rich, thanks for tuning in as always. I get to see a lot more basketball than I typically would, on the regular season. And like Mighty said, it's good because a lot of times he's in the gym or he's on his way home from the gym. So depending on what time those games are coming on, you might be able to catch a game after you get off work or, coming from the gym, working out or whatever, running errands or whatever. You can get back home and look forward to a game. And like I said, it's once football season is over, and think about that, like a game, thank you, sir, a game every day of the week. I mean, come on now. What more could you ask for? I mean, we were already getting games, how they were playing them 2-3 times a week, and you got those double headers. So to get back to what you mentioned, Jay, the load management, I think that might come into place a little bit too. But now I think some of those double headers that we're used to seeing on national television might get broken down into some of these games, like one game, a game a week, or they might double up and put 2 games on at different times. They still may have double headers, but it could work. I think, like I said, I think with the new deal or whatever, I think they're trying to do things to possibly increase viewership, because things have not been great. We have known that for the past couple years, we've been talking about officiating, and we're not just talking about NBA. I'm just talking about NBA because we're on this particular point. But we've been talking about officiating in all of the major sports for the past couple of years now. And it's gotten to a point where I think it's going to be consistently talked about from now moving forward until things begin to change. And it's funny because when we talked about all the stuff with the conspiracy theories and how the season was going to play out with Boston and this and that and the third, now when you think about these types of things and you think about how the officiating has been, and I said this when we talked about that as well, you begin to think about some of that stuff and you begin to think about, wait, maybe this could have some substance to it. But, it is what it is. So again, for me, I like it. I like the idea of it. Still, I'm sure it's a work in progress. Again, I just hope that it doesn't get oversaturated for the NBA and for the fans, like watching the game every day. Like for me, I'll be in a good mood. I'll be great. Because like I said, you had those days, like I said, when the Sixers might be off or traveling days. It might be 2-3 days in between. I can get to see my team. But in between there, I can still fuel my basketball passion and watch some basketball games. And again, like I said, it's got to be good basketball or I'll tune out any minute. In a minute's time, I will tune out like it's nothing. So, getting to this point, I told you all just real briefly, the NBA has struck a new deal, a record deal, $76 billion. It's a lot of money, y'all. It's a lot of money. And I mean, this also says that kind of assures that player salaries will continue rising for the foreseeable future. I briefly mentioned that, I think about 2 weeks ago when I talked about how the owner of the Boston Celtics was selling the team in the midst of their record payroll right now, and looking at how that could be the norm in the NBA very, very soon. So it looks like they're cutting their losses easy now, or cutting their losses short now, and trying to get out so they don't have to worry about that later on down the line when it gets somewhat uncontrollable or somewhat out of hand. The deal, it says, sets NBA records for both its length and total value. So it looks like the NBA is going to be good for a long time. Games will continue to be aired on ESPN, ABC, and then they say now some will begin going to Amazon Prime, NBC, and TNT. So it still says TNT Sports, and we all know, we heard all the talk about ending the final show, the final run for TNT's Inside the NBA with Chuck, Charles, and Ernie, and Kenny. Still having games on TNT. What type of show do you bring now? Because you can't just put games on. You always have to have some type of pregame show. ESPN does it all the time. NBC did it when they had those shows, because NBC and like ABC and ESPN are tied in together. So it's always a pregame show before games. So how do you do this now on TNT without the guys and the guys that a ton of viewers and NBA fans had gotten accustomed to for the long run that they had? And like I said, when you watch those four guys, on air, it gave you a sense of camaraderie, a sense of brotherhood. And when I say that, I mean the way that these guys, their knowledge of basketball showed through. And also it showed how they could have fun with each other and have fun with the game of basketball, and in their approach and in their presentation. And then their commentary of the game of basketball. So it was good for basketball, in my opinion. Like I said, it was a long run for them. Very, very good show. Emmys out the you-know-what. Again, like I said, it was just like cohesion, where it never looked like anything was staged or rehearsed. It was always fun for them. It seemed like I said, it was fun for them to be on that set together. It was fun for them to do what they do. It was fun for them to be there together and being able to, again, talk about basketball and being able to pick with each other, and joke with each other like brothers. So that, is that. And again, like the NBA said, the NBA, a lot of money being spread around. We've seen contracts and all of that. We've seen other stuff. So it's a lot of stuff, a lot of money that's been spread around in that. So we'll see what happens with that. Staying with the NBA, folks, the NBA Cup groupings are out. As we know, they started the NBA Cup last season. It will continue this season. The dates for the NBA Cup are Tuesday, November 12th is the start date, through Tuesday, December the 12th. Four games throughout for each team on Cup nights, 2 home and 2 away. Then they move into the 8 teams move into the knockout rounds and so on and so forth, with the final tournament, semifinals, and finals being played in Vegas. So the Cup groupings are as follows, and these were randomly selected and put together based on last season's overall records. The West, Group A, the Timberwolves, Clippers, Kings, and Rockets. Group B, the Thunder, the Suns, the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Spurs. And Group C, the Nuggets, Mavs, Pelicans, Warriors, Grizzlies. In the East, the Knicks, Magic, Sixers, Nets, Hornets all make up Group A. Group B, Bucks, Pacers, Heat, Raptors, Pistons. And Group C, Celtics, Cavs, Bulls, Hawks, Wizards. All right. So that's that. Another NBA Cup. And those are the groupings. And like I said, they were randomly selected in order. Oh, not in order. According to their final season record at the end of last season. So we move along. And like I said, we're definitely going to talk some Sixers for you. I saw some stuff. And the things I mentioned to you, I don't know if you guys did your homework or not, but I mentioned to you the Philadelphia episode of Paul George's podcast P. He broke down some things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I got some transcripts of that, and break down a little bit of that, of how that played out, and how he ended up becoming a Philadelphia 76er in free agency. There are still a few spots to fill for the Philadelphia 76ers. More and more, day by day, I'm hearing the interest in Dorian Finney-Smith, and it has to be via trade. The latest I've heard was that KJ Martin could have been signed to be involved in that sign and trade. Not 100% sure as of yet. Also, rumors of the Sixers being the favorites to land Gary Trent Jr., another shooting guard, which could help as far as a bench rotation player, bench depth. But we still need another power forward. And I've also heard interest in Marcus Morris and bringing him back. I think that would be a good thing. He brings what we need. He brings the toughness at that power forward spot. Not to say that Caleb Martin isn't tough, doesn't have toughness, doesn't bring toughness, but just basketball wise, if we could, for lack of a better phrase and better words, Marcus Morris, in my opinion, is more of a natural power forward with his size and his toughness. He's taller, he's bigger than Caleb Martin. He's tough, and he can give you some offense too. All right, he can play the 5-4 and the 5. He can play small ball, certain rotations, but he definitely is a lot more comfortable. Let me retract that. I won't say a lot more comfortable. He definitely is the type of power forward that we need to fill in on this roster. So I'm hoping that they get some things done and can make some moves and bring him back as another addition to the team. And then I think we'll be good. Adam Bona has signed and a 4-year deal. So both of our rookies are signed. I honestly think Adam Bona and Jared McCain are going to make this NBA roster. I really think that Adam Bona will get some minutes at playing time because of his enthusiasm, his energy. If you haven't seen him, please check him out. If you can't catch him in Summer League, go Google him, check out his highlights. And I think this is just my thoughts and my opinion that he is our replacement for Paul Reed. As you know, we made a move to get Caleb Martin. We had to waive Paul Reed, yada, yada, yada. Paul Reed has since signed on with the Detroit Pistons, which is fine. And again, do not get me wrong, folks. I liked Paul Reed, but like I said, I could not give Paul Reed a definitive position. I couldn't define him as a position player. I defined him as a basketball player, which I always said the city actually gave him the correct and proper nickname as B-Ball Paul, because that's why I look at him as a B-Ball player. And when I say that, again, no disrespect, it's just noticing what I noticed watching basketball with my 3 hats on as a player, coach, and referee. This is what I see. He doesn't shoot the ball well enough to be that stretch 3 that we would need him to be. I don't know about Bona's shooting right now, but I think we have enough shooting around him where we can fit him in as a defensive presence and a put-back, rebounding, low bucket, close to the rim, down low kind of guy to get us some buckets there. Not even have to really run plays for him as of yet, but we can get a lot of energy and a lot of defense out of him. The other thing with Paul Reed, he wasn't a 5. He was back of 5, but he was not a 5. He wasn't big enough to play the 5. And I say big enough, I'm not the height. I say big enough as far as his width, his girth. Again, same thing with the 4. He didn't have enough of a skill set to be that strong power forward. He didn't even, again, shoot well enough to be that stretch power forward. So again, for me, he was just a basketball player. You had to use him where you could, utilize his energy, and take everything that he gave you when he gave it to you with a grain of salt. And think of it as whatever you got, this is what we got, this is what we'll live with. But the difference I see with Adam Bona is there's a more calculated effort on defense. Not to say Paul Reed didn't play defense, but this young kid looks like he enjoys playing defense. He also looks like, and I saw this in highlights, that if he's close to the rim, his mind frame and his instinct is to finish. And that means he'll dunk on you. If he has to go through you to dunk it, he will definitely try. Which I like the aggressiveness there. And Paul Reed did not have that full tilt of aggressiveness. So that's why I give a little edge. And this is where I think that he may be our replacement for Paul Reed. Ariad Briggs, homie, what's good? Good brother. What's happening? So, like I said, Caleb Martin is going to bring some toughness. You had a little bit of toughness with KJ Martin, but again, like I said, the rumors that I've been hearing, the news that I've been hearing, I don't know how long he's going to be around. If he's going to be around long, like I said, I like the additions of Eric Gordon. The bringing in possibly, again, like I said, the Dorian Finney-Smith, and again, I don't think that he is a legit power forward either. I think he's one of those stretch players. Gary Trent Jr. would also, like I said, another bench player to give us some more depth on that bench. I think we may have to find another guard, possibly, and it may end up being Jared McCain to possibly give some third-string relief minutes at point guard. I've heard some things about the young man from Philly, the undrafted young man on the two-way contract, Justin Edwards from Imhotep and out of the University of Kentucky. Some of the things that I've heard is that he looks somewhat out of place in this NBA world right now. Looks like he will be utilizing a lot of his two-way contract playing in the G League. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's what it's there for. It's called the G League for a reason. It used to be called the Developmental League. But it's there for a reason, right? It is definitely, like I said, it's there for a reason. For these guys to get better, to work on their games, and be able to crack the rotation at some point and end up on the NBA roster. Okay? So I saw an article, and the title of this article is "The Sixers Have a Bona Fide Big Three, and How Do They Match Up Across the League?" So we talk about the Sixers' Big Three, and you could argue that they've technically had a Big Three before, just using the term Big Three. It wasn't really anything significant. There was the short-lived time of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Jimmy Butler. We know how that ended. We know how that turned out. Then there was, most recently, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. Saw how that played out. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this when I get to the Paul George stuff. You know, like I said, with that last grouping, they had Boston on the ropes, had their number, had them where we wanted them. Folded Game 6 and just basically did not show up in Game 7. Now they have Paul George. And immediately the first things that Philly fans went to was the max contract, because that was the rumor and that was what he got. Then it was the injuries. Okay, our own star has been injured, but this was arguably the Sixers' best move this year in free agency. Arguably. Some people may disagree with me. Some people may agree with me. But here's the thing. You now have that wing player that you have coveted for years, a few years now, that has the size to cover multiple positions on the wing, has the wherewithal to dig in and play and get down dirty and gritty on the defensive end, and can get at a bucket. Okay, we talk about looking at lineups. So I said that I felt like, and I believe that Adam Bona is our replacement for Paul Reed. So of course we know Paul George is our replacement for Tobias Harris. You know how I feel about that. And again, no disrespect to Tobias Harris. I think Tobias Harris is a really, really good basketball player. I just did not agree with, and it didn't sit well with me, about his inconsistency. That was my only thing with him, for real, his inconsistency. I didn't think he was a bad player. I just felt like he was way too inconsistent for my liking. I also said that a lot of times when driving to the basket at 6'8", when there was potential contact or potential contention as in a defender, a lot of times he got small in that situation. I don't see the same thing in Paul George. I see more of an offensive skill set in Paul George than I had in Tobias Harris. Meaning, Paul George is a little bit more adept at going off the dribble than Tobias Harris was. He can also space the floor, spot up for Joel, and shoot the three. And, because you have to be honest there, because he's that threat. And then you throw Maxey into that mix too. And whatever we saw Kelly Oubre do last year, you throw that in the mix now. And then you bring some toughness in of Caleb Martin. So, again, this year, you have to somewhat applaud Daryl Morey because he is actually putting together a basketball team. I think if these guys can stay healthy, and again, that's another key, a big key in this whole situation, these guys can stay healthy. And again, when I talked about this earlier, I mentioned that I also felt that it could possibly keep Joel healthy with the two that he has now. Because he even said it himself at one point. He said, now during the regular season, I don't have to work as hard I don't have to get 30 or 40 a night for us to win games. I can kind of play my game and play off of Paul and Tyrese and let them do their thing and do what they do. And I mean, Joel's going to get his anyway. Maxey, the way that he's improving and the way that he's growing and the way that he's still continuing to learn and be a gym rat, he's going to get his. Paul George's attitude is where you want it to be right now from everything that I've heard. He said that he has spoken to Maxey. He has spoken to Joel. He said him and Joel talk every All-Star break. So there is a bond there. Of course, that bond will grow. We want it to grow. And because they've already had dialogue, I think it will grow. Again, I think Paul George's attitude, like I said, I think his attitude is in the right place in a lot of the things that he has said. So you talk about this Sixers big three. A lot of people say that this is their best chance. I kind of agree with that. There are some people that say for the Sixers right now, it's either championship or bust. You still got to get by the Boston Celtics. So again, I don't think Daryl Morey is done. I think, definitely we need a couple more pieces to be added. But again, I think it's coming together. And like I said, with Joel playing in the Olympics, and I've seen some clips of him. I saw some clips from the game earlier today. I didn't catch the score to give to you today, but I've seen him moving around. Looks like Joel. So for me, that means he'll come into NBA training camp, hopefully in arguably the best shape that he has come into camp in. And him playing with the likes of Paul George and Tyrese Maxey can help him stay healthy throughout the season a little bit longer. And people will probably sit here and listen to me say that, and they say, well, how can that happen? He had Harden that spaced the floor. Yes, understand the difference in spacing the floor and how you have to attack that from the defensive end. With Paul George, he also has the depth and the agility and the ability to go off the dribble and get to the cup and finish or get to the line. And he can shoot that three. So you have to stay honest there. Hence, you have to have that spacing. Okay, you can't give him too much room because he'll either knock the shot down or he can attack you the same either way. So again, like I said, that kind of defensive honesty that will be created will definitely help Joel. And then you got the young kid, the fast guy, cutting, dashing, and Kelly Oubre cutting and dashing. So, and then again, you have a legit center in Andre Drummond as his backup now, who we know what Andre Drummond can do. We know what Andre Drummond did when he was here for the short time he was here before. He's excited to be back. So, I think it's going to be fun. Like I said, there's still some pieces that need to be put in place, some holes that need to be filled. But I think that some people are beginning to look, and I'm talking about some other players, are beginning to look and see what could possibly be being created. And like I said again, with this big three, the difference is the way you have to plan your attack from the defensive end, because of the ability and the skill set of the three now. And when you think about it, all three of our actual now big three can all do the same thing. To take away the post up from Maxey so much, but all of them can shoot the three. All of them can step out, shoot the three, like I said, and all of them can go off the dribble, including the 7-foot center. So it's kind of like at nights in, night out, you're going to have to pick your poison. And I'm willing to bet that a lot more nights than not, you're not going to stop all three. And like I said, and then you have the sneaky possibilities of a 20-point night from Kelly Oubre. Eric Gordon can come off the bench and get hot. If the situation with Gary Trent plays out the way that it's expected and people hope, that can be some points off the bench. If you can talk to Marcus Morris and bring him in, you can also help save Joel Embiid because of the way his toughness is and the way that he plays and the scoring ability that he has. So they're looking in the right direction, moving in the right direction. And I think that it's going to be pretty good. So some of the other things that were brought up, some more spacing for some of the impactful ways that Caleb Martin can improve the Sixers. His three-point prowess, he's at 34.9% from three. He's another versatile weapon where he can score the ball and he plays defense. And then also he excels against the Sixers' rival, the Boston Celtics, where he averaged 13.6 points, 50% shooting in the regular season and the playoffs. So that is definitely going to be a help for our Sixers. All right. Some other news, some other stuff that we talked about. I might get to the Derek White thing in a minute, and then something else I wanted to throw out there just for my basketball fans to see what their thoughts are, what their opinions are about this particular topic and situation. So this next one, I'm going to go into, before I go into the wrist or whatever, the Paul George situation, I'm going to go into the story about how Paul George on his podcast talked about his decision, his new teammates, and what he heard from Dr. J. As you know, the core that went to visit and meet with Paul George were definitely all of the Sixers brass. So he had a meeting on June 30th, right, with the Sixers brass. So it was Dave Blitzer, Josh Harris, Elton Brand, Dr. J. And then, like he says, quote, "Bro, I had Dr. J in my crib." Okay? He said the majority of the Philadelphia front office was there at the house, and you know it was a great meeting. They told him that he was our guy, and we believe in you, and we want you here. He also says they sold the city, they sold the team, the organization, the fit, and it was just like an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So, but as we know, there were some things going on with him in L.A. where talks had stalled, and then and at one point during this podcast, during this particular episode, he mentions that, he said, let's just stop talking. I felt it, me being detached from teammates and other things of that nature. I didn't want it to, cause any problems with the team. Let's wait till the season is over and revisit it. Didn't work out. All right. He also talked about his mindset of going into that first season Sixers meeting. He said it was just the idea. He thought about playing with a presence like Joel Embiid, a fresh start. Like he says, Joel Embiid is arguably, if not the best center in the league. He can do it all. Okay, he said it was a pretty open on the conversation and the decision. He said one of the other things that he said Dr. J. And he said Dr. J told him a story that also kind of solidified his decision. He said Dr. J told him the story about how he got to the team and they ended up getting to the championship. They lost one. They got to the championship again and lost. And then they got there one more time again and lost. He was like, it was just like they couldn't get over the hump is the way they felt. Then the Sixers go and they trade for Moses Malone and win it. And he was like, that was the missing piece. He said, he was like, P, you're the missing piece. He said, after that story, you know where I'm going to sign at, quote unquote. It's nothing, no brainer there. He loves Tyrese Maxey. He loves Joel Embiid, of course. When he talks about Kelly Oubre, and I'm quoting this and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to read it line, verbatim. He says he loves his competitiveness, his tenaciousness. He's looking forward to lining up with him. He's looking forward to being on the floor and on the wing. He says he thinks he can help him grow and he can teach him some things, that he's super talented. He always seems to get into it when they play, but he's one of those guys. So now he's playing with them. All right, he's looking forward to it. He said Nick Nurse is a great guy. He was just here. He played some golf with Nick Nurse, and they talked. Smart guy, good guy. He said why he believes the Sixers can contend for a title. Quote, Nick Nurse is as good as it gets in coaching. He won at many different levels. He already talked about how good Joel is. Yada, yada, yada. I think everybody wants to win. All right, he have a good mixture of veterans and young guys. He thinks Jared McCain will help. Really good player out of college. So it's just a mixture of everything. He said he chose number 8 because Kobe was his favorite player, and that is his tribute to one Kobe Bryant. All right. His message to Sixers fans, like I mentioned to you all, I said that it sounds like everything that he is saying is right on the point and what you want to hear. His message to Sixers fans, he says, I quote, I want to be here. You're going to get 100% max effort out of me. I look forward to just being in front of that crowd. That was interesting. Aaron Minstrel, they told me this. He was like, Philly's one of those destinations, yada, yada, yada. Historic fan says, so I'm just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to embracing that and playing for y'all. Working as hard as I can, bringing that two-way player. Just winning like I'm trying to win, and I ain't won yet. I can't say that I'm a champion yet. I want to be able to crown myself as a champion, so I'm going to work hard as hell. I'm going to push big fella. I'm going to push Tyrese to be better and just try to build something. Man, build a championship team. End quote. So again, you gotta love what he says. You have to love what he says. Again, in my opinion, he's saying definitely all the right things, the things that you want to hear. All right. So they also, a lot of people talk, and most importantly, the biggest hater, and I'm using the word hater, is Brian Windhorst. All right, he says that this thing was a mistake and yada 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 and all that jazz. All right, so we all know, like I said, we all know that we signed Paul George, and we all know it's a risk. We all know that. It's always a risk. It was a risk when we signed James Harden. It's a risk when you draft players. All right, it's a risk when you trade for players. So we all know that. That's a given. All right. Now, so the one downside is that downside of George is more spectacular than the downside of a more consecutive roster building strategy. All right. He said, but George offers that upside. He is 34, but he's arguably coming off the best season of his career. He was among the best two-way players in the league. 41.3% from three-point range. 70% converted 70% of his shots at the rim. Again, getting to the cup and finishing. Scored more than half of his 2-point buckets without an assist, and got to the foul line. All that to go with his defense. So that means he can create his own shot, and he can go to the cup, finish, and take the foul, get the traditional one-on-one. In this article, some would say, and think about this for a second, swap that player that I just talked about in for Tobias Harris, and Sixers beat the Knicks. He says they also beat the Pacers, and they give the Celtics a run for their money. The Sixers are suddenly, with Paul George, the third betting favorite to win the 2024-25 NBA. Only one of the team in the NBA era have the Sixers begun a season at better than 12-1. All right, the downside is just as big as it was that season. The Sixers will not win a title in a world where George and Embiid are not both healthy. We understand that. And again, like I said, the way this roster is being built, I feel like it's going to help keep these guys healthy. It also says George has missed more games than Embiid himself over the last 4 regular seasons. He has missed an entire postseason. We look to change that. So again, like I said, we all know risk. Risk is like a big word that's always around. Like I said, when you make trades, when you draft players, when you sign players in free agency, it's always a risk. Always. So for me, I don't get where a lot of people are in this situation. I like it. Again, like I said, I could sit here and talk about the money till I'm blue in the face. It's the going state of the NBA. The Sixers had the money. They had to spend it. They got the guy that they wanted. I'm okay with it. I have to see it in action, of course, but I'm okay with what they're doing so far, what they have done so far. It's somewhat impressive to me with what they have done. I don't know what the change is. It could be the coach. It could be the atmosphere. Something. But again, like I said, you bring in an Eric Gordon. You go out and get a Paul George. You bring back an Andre Drummond. Kelly Oubre wanted to stay here, so you bring him back. Kyle Lowry came back for another year and came back to us. Guys want to be here now. Guys want to play with Joel. Guys want to play with Maxey. Guys want to be here. So we'll see what happens. See how it plays out. Again, I'm all in. I feel like they've done some really good things. And again, I feel like they're not done yet. All right. So, last thing I'm going to bring to you today. You're going to stay with this basketball thing. And I'm sure once I get off air, you can add more comments in if you think of some things later. So, it says, and I saw this and I just wanted to bring this to the table and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Just because someone scores a lot of points doesn't mean they are a scorer. How do we feel about that, basketball fans? I'm going to say it one more time for you. Just because someone scores a lot of points doesn't mean they are a scorer. I think there's some truth to that. This particular article, they talked about DeMar DeRozan and some points that Rashad McCants pointed out on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. I may get to a couple quotes or not, but just my thoughts and my opinions. I feel like, again, like I said, I feel like there is some truth to that because, you could have one of those nights. You can have a couple nights. In the article, they referenced Rip Hamilton, who scored a lot of points, had a great mid-range game, but was not a great shooter. They also talk about DeMar DeRozan, who also has a great mid-range game, often scores a lot of points, but again is not a great shooter. So you have shooters, you have scorers, and then you have people that score a lot of points. You can categorize it in all three. Again, this is why I say that I feel like there is some truth to this. Just because someone scores a lot of points doesn't mean that they are a scorer. A scorer, in my opinion, is someone that can score on all three levels, that can score at any given moment of a game, any particular time of a game. A scorer, in my opinion, also can take over a game. When we talk about someone scoring a lot of points, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've taken over the game. It just means that their scoring has made a greater impact on the game. So what I say when I mean taking over the game, where like Kobe Bryant would say, give me the ball and get out the way. Michael Jordan wanted to take that last shot. Those are the type of things I say for people that are scorers. It's like, I know I can go get a bucket anytime I want. Like I said, somebody that scores a lot of points, the game may change because you scored a lot of points. But the scorer, this particular night, I'm sorry if they're scoring a lot of points, the scorer can do this any given night, just about every night. Whenever they want to turn it on, they can be the scorer, they can score the points. It's my opinion, these are my thoughts. So again, for me, there is truth to this. Just because someone scores a lot of points does not mean that you're a scorer. Like I said, you can score a lot of points. But again, like I said, DeMar DeRozan, they're not great shooters. I think you have to be somewhat of a shooter to be a scorer. It's just my opinion. Okay. You can kind of be a scorer without being a great shooter, but it's tough. You know, like I said, I feel like there is some truth to this. I know it kind of sounds confusing where I'm talking about this, but I'm trying to break it down in a multiple faceted ways so you can see different angles of how it could be broken down. Like I said, also feel like to be a scorer, you have to be somewhat of a shooter. These two guys that we talked about, I mentioned in this article, DeMar DeRozan and Rip Hamilton, were not particularly really good shooters. Again, both of them had heavy mid-range games. Not real big on the three-point shot, but heavy mid-range games and heavy being able to get to the basket. You saw Rip Hamilton was kind of a la Reggie Miller. He ran around tons of screens and constantly moved to get himself open. There we go. He got himself open to get the ball to score the buckets. As a scorer, you don't need to get open. You can get the ball and get your bucket. That's the way I think about it there. You can get the ball and you can have the ball and get your bucket. You don't need to be set up all the time. You don't need to be run off screens and things of that nature. You can just give me the ball, like Kobe used to say, give me the ball and get out of my way. I'm going to go get this bucket. That's how I feel about that. Listen, it can be broken down in a lot of different ways, like I said, but those are just my thoughts and my opinions and how I feel about the situation. Okay. Again, Monday afternoon, short shows now. Football season will be coming. Like I said, once we get into training camp, we'll have more dialogue. I'll have more information and more stuff to give you guys as we go along. Listen, thank you all for tuning in. Everybody that tuned in today. Yellow Bowman, Mighty Robinson, Mighty Boxing Club, Jake Blake, Keba Jame, Brooke Burrell, Lowell Rich, and Ariad Briz. Thank you all for tuning in. And for all of you that did not comment in, I hope you enjoyed the content on video. I'm going to try and work on a video today to get it up. In worst case scenario, I'll get it in the bar. Absolutely, I agree with that as well, Jay, but every shooter isn't a scorer. I think so too. When you think about that, you look at some names. We can talk about some names. Some shooters. Like Ray Allen. You know, some of the best shooters out there weren't necessarily scorers. They were just hella shooters. And I agree with you there. Every shooter isn't a scorer. I definitely agree with that point too. All right. Monday, 4:48 p.m. Hot out there. Going to be even hotter today. So on your way home, if you are not home already, and if you are, please check on your neighbors, check on your elderly neighbors especially, and your elderly family members. Check on the kids, man, because you know kids are going to want to be outside playing in this heat. Make sure they are in and out. Well, not in and out. Make sure they're in or out. If they're out, make sure it's for a designated period of time and make sure they stay hydrated. Again, you know what I say. Monday, be great on purpose. I hope you all had an enjoyable Monday afternoon with me. Some games for today. We got WNBA, Mercury and the Mystics, the Storm and the Sparks, the Sun and the Liberty, Skies and the Aces. Like I said, the U.S. men's team played earlier today, 12 o'clock our time. They played against Australia. Tuesday, tomorrow night, during the All-Star break, Major League Baseball, National League versus the American League. Believe the Home Run Derby and some other activities are tonight, and I do believe that Alec Boehm is participating in the Home Run Derby. You know where to find me, right here where you are tuned in on Instagram at SportsRap CEO, also at SportsRap CEO on Threads and TikTok. Facebook, you can check the group page. I haven't been over there much. There's been more traffic on Instagram. So again, you get over to the webpage, sportsrapradio.com, and also make sure you get over to the YouTube channel. Make sure you know what to do. Make sure you do it. And tell a friend to tell a friend. I will see you all right back here next Monday on air and all week on social media. And do not forget, take and download the mobile app, available on Apple, on iOS, and Android in the Google Play Store, so you can take Heat 100 Radio with you. You can take SportsRap Podcast with you. And soon I'm going to be uploading some replays of some shows. So tell me some things that you missed. Tell me some things that you like so I can create some shows. And as always, message me. Tell me what topics you want to talk about. Ask me questions that I can bring to the air and answer on air. Get your moments of fame. And always stay tuned for us. You know, the Dell is popping. Stay tuned to Heat 100 Radio and this show. And coming soon, the Midday Rush. The Boss Lady is coming back. So make sure you stay tuned on how you can win some tickets. But if you don't stay tuned and win some tickets, you know you can always go to 33rd Street. Go to the Dell ticket office and get you some tickets. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.